Tonight on CFTK-TV, MP Taylor Bachrach comments on the latest strikes, another food recall has been made in grocery stores, and how the Canadian government plans to reduce immigration in the next 3 years.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, I'm Damian Smith, and thank you for joining us here on CFTK-TV. Well, MP Taylor Bachrach says that recent use of arbitration to send picketers back to work sends the wrong impression to employers. Here's CFTK's Jaylene Matthews with more.
MP Taylor Bachrach has voiced his concerns about the government's use of binding arbitration to force people back to work.
Now, we saw this with the rail workers, we saw it with the port workers, and now Canada Post is on strike, and I think there's a concern that the government may do something similar in that case as well. Now, of course, there are always concerns and difficulties when it comes to the impact of labor disruptions on the economy and on people's lives. But the right to collectively bargain is in the Constitution, and we know that the agreements that are made at the table are more durable. They're better agreements. So I'm very concerned looking down the road if the government is going to use this sledgehammer in Section 107 to resolve every major labor dispute. It really serves to undermine workers' right to collective bargaining.
Bachrach says this impedes collective bargaining from taking place.
We need to see fair deals, we need to see timely deals, and we need to see workers' rights respected in this country.
The Canada Post disruption will also delay passport delivery, as well as business invoices traveling through the system, and they are not accepting new items until the disruption is over. Canada Post and the union have agreed to continue delivering government benefit checks.
So, I know everyone is watching this closely. It's impacting people's lives. But my hope, my sincere hope, is that they can reach an equitable agreement as soon as possible.
For CFTK-TV News in Terrace, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
And with that, small businesses are now caught in an awkward position, with many of them using Canada Post as a way to ship their products. A lot of money is getting lost in the process, and Shannon Patterson from CTV has the rest.
Smoking Gun Coffee Roasters in Chilliwack typically ships at least 100 packages a week through Canada Post.
Canada Post is a little more competitive. We also have a depot like 5 steps away from our location, so it's extremely convenient for drop-offs and pickups and that sort of a thing.
The strike has forced the small business to pivot to pricier shipping companies and has left some packages of coffee in limbo.
It's been a lot of conversation and correspondence with customers wondering where their coffee is.
And it's not just small businesses impacted by the strike. Baby Go Round is a registered charity that provides cribs, clothing, formula, and other critical baby products to Metro Vancouver parents who are struggling to make ends meet.
We bring in about 54% of our annual donations in the last 2 months of the year. And to kick that off is a direct mail piece, which is a letter that shares and features the story of one of our former clients and then asks for a donation.
With no mail being delivered, that direct fundraising plea can't happen.
It's a big disruption to our biggest fundraiser of the year, which for Baby Go Round could impact our ability to continue to serve the number of clients that we do over the next few months.
In November 2018, the federal government ordered striking Canada Post employees back to work after 5 weeks of rotating job action.
It's impossible to imagine 5 weeks. I mean, honestly, beyond a week or two, it's very hard to manage. It would be extremely damaging to small retail businesses.
On Monday, a mediator began working with the two sides to try to hammer out a deal.
We're really hopeful that the two parties can come to a negotiated settlement within a couple of days, not weeks, because this is too critical to the country's economy. It's too critical to a whole swath of small businesses.
But so far, Canada Post and the union remain far apart, with the holiday season fast approaching. Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
And to go along with the newest people in Premier David Eby's cabinet and their minister positions, Tamara Davidson, who won the North Coast Haida Gwaii riding with relative ease in last month's local election, has acquired her minister position as well. Davidson was named as the Minister of the Environment and Parks as she joins the quite different looking group of ministers that was put together by Eby. Davidson has previous experience working in public service, including land management, conservation, and strategic planning. In a post on Facebook, Davidson, who is the first ever Indigenous MLA to win her specific riding, proclaimed how excited she was to be the one that was given the responsibility of caring for the environment. Now, an event that many sports fans like to partake in is 50-50 draws, where they have a chance to win hundreds of thousands of dollars. And after the Grey Cup on Sunday, the other proceeds are going to develop football players in the province. Here's Craig Krause of CTV.
Could someone have thrown out more than $434,000 at the Grey Cup? That's the question many are wondering after the winning 50-50 ticket went unclaimed.
Not the winning number.
Fans now scrambling to find their tickets to double-check their numbers.
I wish! I was hoping to be the winner, but I'm not the winner.
Did you win?
No, I don't think so. Somebody must have won because there's a floating ticket out there somewhere.
There sure is. And organizers say the ticket was purchased inside BC Place for $40, the winning digits being GC 8613017, a ticket worth hundreds of thousands of dollars as part of the 50-50 draw that generated nearly $861,000 on Sunday.
Hopefully there's a little bit of money coming our way from that too. That'd be great.
Proceeds from 50-50 at BC Place going towards amateur football. Cash that Kevin Parks, the president of the BC Provincial Football Association, says is split up across associations to ensure everyone has access to the game, whether it's touch or tackle, kids or adults.
We're trying to get tackle women's in BC, and we're also trying to do flag football. So there's a clear pathway to the Olympics in 2028. So it'd be nice to have BC reps, go to that. It'd be great to have it.
And in the meantime, the winning 50-50 ticket from the Grey Cup is still out there. And there is good news. The BC Lions tell me the winner has 1 year to claim their prize. Craig Krause, CTV News, Vancouver.
Now announced this morning, the Nisga'a Nation and First Nation in the Northwest lost their beloved and respected chief, Samagat High Mass, who peacefully passed away this morning with his family at his side. High Mass was known as an artist, composer of many cultural songs, and creating many cultural dance groups in his community. He also has received many recognitions throughout the years, such as Order of British Columbia and the Dreamcatcher Foundation Award, which is to honor trailblazing Indigenous leaders. Coming up next, another food recall has now been on notice in Canadian grocery stores. Welcome back. Well, a number of carrots around the country have now been recalled, which is now food item number 147 in the year of 2024. Here's Adrian Gabriel of CTV News.
They're a staple in kitchens across the country.
This is a high-volume, highly consumed product.
Yesterday, the U.S. Center for Disease Control issued this recall for both baby organic and whole organic carrots due to an E. coli outbreak that has left at least 39 people sick and 1 person dead. The American notice includes the Canadian brand Compliments from Sobeys and Loblaw's President's Choice organic carrots. Tonight, approximately 24 hours after the American warning, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency issued a recall of their own that includes Bunny Love and Cal organic carrots.
You do wonder what's happening, why the delay. I think by now, given the scope of the recall.
The carrots are grown at Grimway Farms in Bakersfield, California, which is the largest carrot grower in the world. Those who think they can just wash away the E. coli may want to think again.
It might reduce the risk a little bit, but that is really the issue that we have with fresh produce, is that we can't wash it off.
Some food experts believe that droughts in California have played a role in recent E. coli outbreaks plaguing multiple crops in the U.S. state.
Which forced farms to get water far from their operations. And sometimes they actually got water close to pastures where livestock was being produced. And that's where E. coli comes from. It comes from animal waste.
While there have been a number of high-profile E. coli and listeria outbreaks in recent months, Food recalls in Canada are down from a record high of 253 in 2021 to 147 so far this year. If you have one of the named brands of organic carrots in your fridge, with best before dates ranging from August 14th through November 12th, they could be contaminated with E. coli.
And many BC residents on the coast have been hit with a so-called bomb cyclone, which has created many power outages, especially on Vancouver Island. Ben Milger from CTV has the details.
It's been 3 years since BC saw a storm like the one bearing down on the coast right now. The meteorological term is bomb cyclone. Environment Canada says it is extremely fortunate. The center of this one is expected to stay about 300 to 400 kilometers offshore.
The last sort of real significant one would have been back in 2021. And this one's very indicative. It has a very similar track to the system we saw back then.
That storm toppled trees, forced BC ferries to cancel multiple sailings, and left thousands in the dark as BC Hydro crews triaged widespread power outages. Expect more of the same Tuesday into Wednesday. The west coast of the island is expected to bear the brunt with 40 to 50-foot surf and hurricane-force winds topping 120 kilometers per hour. But parts of the lower mainland could see major impacts as well.
With our team of in-house meteorologists, we have been tracking this weather system quite closely.
BC Hydro has crews in place ready to respond should the lights go out, but it is possible some may find themselves without power for extended periods.
Customers should always have an emergency kit on hand with supplies that last for up to 72 hours. And items could include non-perishable food, bottles of water, batteries as well.
BC Ferries is planning for possible delays or cancellations Tuesday evening into Wednesday morning. And interior mountain passes could see significant snowfall. The storm has formed quite quickly.
Think about it like a sort of a circulating engine. And that cold air aloft coming into the backside of that storm really helps it to intensify very rapidly.
Winds will batter parts of the coast for hours, and the cleanup could take days. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
And turning to tonight's forecast, the Prince Rupert area should have increasing cloudiness as the night goes on, with winds coming from the east at 30 kilometers per hour, increasing to 50 at times. Northeast winds will be running at 90 and even 110 at times at the mainland valley and inlets. There will be a low of 3 degrees as well. The Terrace and Kitimat region will also have increasing cloudiness with a 30% chance of flurries overnight. Winds coming from the north at 50 kilometers per hour, increasing to 70 at times, and a temperature of 0 degrees. And finally, the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will be cloudy with snow at midnight, winds from the northeast at 40 kilometers per hour, and a low of -11. And now onto your weekly weather forecast. The coast with a wind warning underway should see way more sun than usual, with a drop off in temperature this weekend. The high will be 7 degrees tomorrow and the low will be -8 on Saturday night. The Terrace and Kitimat region should also have sunny conditions with some colder temperatures, with the high being 1 degree tomorrow and the low being -9 on Saturday night. And finally, the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will have more snow than the other two areas, with the high being -3 on Thursday and the low being -15 on Sunday night. And now we take a look at our Northwest Roadside Report, and for live updates, make sure to check out Drive BC. On Highway 16, there is utility work on Haida Gwaii and utility work in Vanderhoof. Slippery sections as well. On Highway 37, there is roadside brushing from Cranberry Junction to Miziadin Junction, as well as slippery sections. On Highway 37A, there is bridge maintenance and slippery sections. And Highway 118 and Telegraph Creek both have slippery sections. And these were what the cameras were looking like around the Northwest. Still to come, Spirit Airlines files for bankruptcy from stiffer competition and bigger carriers. Welcome back. Well, Spirit Airlines said yesterday that they will attempt to reboot as the struggle to recover from stiffer competition from bigger carriers. Here's Garrett Berry from CTV News.
Next stop for struggling Spirit Airlines, United States District Court. The airline is heading into bankruptcy proceedings and asking its biggest lenders to take future stocks instead of cash for the money that they are owed.
It is a bit of a surprise considering how big the airline is.
These bright yellow jets aren't grounded yet, but the company has lost about $2.5 billion since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Pilot salaries have risen, and intense competition from other airlines have eaten into profit margins. It's a familiar story north of the border. Some of those same pressures hurt Lynx and Swoop. Both of those low-cost carriers shut down in Canada over the past year. But here, there's a few other barriers, too, that mean industry observers think the ultra-low-cost model is headed for turbulence.
A Canadian low-cost carrier has no ability to offer the equivalent, let's call it, a $70 fare, because the base of the number of fees that are added onto a fare are already in the $50 to $60 range.
Duncan D. spent years at the top ranks of Air Canada. He says this is the only country where airport fees are so big and so widespread.
Airports are on their own. If they want to improve anything in a terminal building, get a new air conditioner, for example, that's something which travelers have to pay.
And in Canada, there's just not the same traveling population. Sizable cities are pretty far apart, meaning costs are higher and potential profits are lower.
There's always an opportunity, and who knows, it just takes one change in policy from the government to really open things up. Will we see that in our lifetimes? I'm not sure about that.
As for Spirit Airlines, the company says tickets will still be honored and new reservations can still be made on their flights. Garrett Berry, CTV News.
And car thieves are now using high-tech devices to break in and also using legal devices that are sold on Amazon. John Woodward from CTV has more.
My wife heard a sound. She came running out of the porch and yelled, "Get away, get away."
That was only the first time Peter Baruch's Toyota was targeted by thieves. The second time, nothing stopped them. Security videos shows they sawed right through a steering wheel lock.
Police warned us in 6 months they'd be back. And sure enough, they were back.
The Baruches among tens of thousands of Canadians a year whose vehicles are stolen in an unprecedented crime wave, often using, police say, high-tech devices designed for locksmiths, but which have fallen into the hands of thieves through an unexpected source.
We do know from previous investigations they're buying them on Amazon.
Canada's industry minister sent Amazon a letter in June highlighting several device models and saying, pending the development and introduction of restrictive measures, I encourage your organization to voluntarily take immediate steps to restrict the sale of these products in Canada. By November, they're still for sale. That's how W5 obtained one and started an SUV in the CTV fleet with the key nowhere nearby, worrying some in Ontario's provincial government as it announced measures to combat auto fraud.
It's ridiculous that this type of thing would be sold on an Amazon website.
For them to be selling tools that allow us to steal vehicles, I think is really irresponsible, and they should not be allowed to sell those items.
Amazon says it did respond to the letter, saying all products it sells are legal and asking when the federal government would pass promised restrictions. As for Baruch, he got a new security system that makes noise and sends him an alert on his phone because he knows he'll need more than a steering wheel lock. John Woodward, CTV News.
And now we turn our attention to the stock market, where we have another day of many categories trending upwards. The Canadian dollar is up 0.3 cents. The price of gold is up $16.40. Oil is up 7 cents. Natural gas is up 3 cents. Aluminum is down 78.50. In Toronto, the TSX is up about 34 points. The Venture Index is up 5. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 120 and NASDAQ is up 195. Still ahead, how Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his government plan to reduce immigration going forward. And 2 days ago, Justin Trudeau released a video on why Canada's immigration system is likely to change. Andrew Johnson from CTV has more.
Immigration. Let's talk about it.
The Prime Minister does that for close to 7 minutes in a new video, accepting some responsibility for being too slow on immigration.
Looking back, when the post-pandemic boom cooled and businesses no longer needed the additional labor help, as a federal team, we could have acted quicker and turned off the taps faster.
But he's also blaming who he calls bad actors, corporations, big box stores, and chain restaurants who took advantage to avoid hiring Canadians.
Some saw that as an opportunity to profit, to game the system.
Trudeau is also targeting post-secondary institutions, saying many used the high tuition paid by international students to bolster their bottom line. In the House of Commons, the opposition claimed Trudeau's got his finger pointed in the wrong direction.
He decided to approve 211% more international students. He decided to lift the ban on temporary foreign workers in communities with already high unemployment. If the Prime Minister is hunting for the quote-unquote bad actors who ruined the system, will he have a look in the mirror?
Many Canadian universities are now facing multi-million-dollar budget shortfalls after Ottawa cut the number of student visas issued by 35%. Post-secondary educators say public institutions, especially community colleges, have been unfairly lumped in with predatory private schools and are simply trying to survive chronic underfunding.
We absolutely benefited from the greater amount of international student tuition, but that masked underlying a far deeper and more important problem.
And the G20 summit is wrapping up its two-day meeting in Brazil, with Ukraine serving as a big discussion for all the countries that are involved in the summit. Here's Judy Trin with CTV.
At a roundtable meeting, President Joe Biden urged G20 members to stand firm on Ukraine.
The United States strongly supports Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Everyone around this table, in my view, should as well.
As one of his last acts in office, Biden has given the green light for Ukraine to launch long-range missiles into Russia.
Hits are not made with words. Such things don't need announcements. Missiles will speak for themselves.
The policy change comes after Moscow launched blistering attacks on Kyiv's power grid, and as more than 10,000 North Korean soldiers bolstered the ranks of Russian forces in the Kursk region.
We must double down on our support for Ukraine. Tomorrow is day 1,000 of the conflict. That's 1,000 days of aggression from Russia and 1,000 days of sacrifice from Ukraine.
In Rio, there's concern President-elect Donald Trump will unravel Biden's decisions. In his meetings, the Prime Minister is lobbying for Ukraine to become a NATO member. But support is divided. Host country, Brazil, backed by China, is pushing another plan. They want Ukraine to stop fighting and start negotiating with Russia.
We don't have high hopes for the G20, unfortunately, but we do want there to be some agreement on the fundamental principle, which is helping Ukraine to win the war.
Trudeau is the longest-serving leader in the G7. As Biden exits the world stage and Donald Trump enters, Trudeau will move into a leadership role, advocating for Ukraine. Judy Trin, CTV News, Rio de Janeiro.
And that'll be all for tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good night.